What is the best Lord of the Rings game ever made?
Must bear this burden. And so, now the adventure begins.
Good, but no.
Come close if you want the backhand.
What would you know that all these other dead orcs didn't?
A very solid entry, but still, no. I'm not going to say that this isn't the best Lord of the Rings game ever made, but I'm also not going to say that it's the best Lord of the Rings game ever made. If I say anything else, I think Bright Life and his community will get mad at me, so I'll just leave it at that. That is the one. Just perfection. Absolute perfection. But perhaps it could be dethroned. A recent financial report from Embracer Group shed some light on some interesting news regarding potential future Lord of the Rings games in the future. Embracer Group, who owns gaming companies like THQ Nordic, Gearbox, and PlayOn, acquired Middle-earth Enterprises in 2022, which owns the licensing rights for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit adaptations for games, movies, TV shows, card games, and more. It's important to point out here that Tolkien's work rights are kind of confusing. This doesn't mean that Embracer Group owns everything. Literary rights, for example, still belong to HarperCollins and the Tolkien estate. But Embracer Group has been busy in recent years as they now have a who's who of IPs like Darksiders, Deus Ex, Borderlands, Tomb Raider, Duke Nukem, Saints Row, Valheim, and of course, Goat Simulator. I, like many of you, have been wondering what they're going to be doing with said IPs, especially Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We already know about two that we are definitely getting, or at least hopefully getting, unless one has been canceled. Gollum is a stealth action game where you get to play as, well, the game made a splash when it was first announced, or perhaps it was more of a ripple and I was just really excited to see a new non-Lego, non-mobile Lord of the Rings game, but it received a lot of pushback over the visuals with some of its recent trailers. This is also one of the games that seems to have been in development before Embracer Group purchased the rights, so the fact that it might come out at all is interesting. Gollum was delayed from its original 2022 release date. The other game we know about is Return to Moria. What can I say about this game except that I want it? I freaking want it. I want it now. I want to play it right now. Valheim, which is now coincidentally owned by Embracer Group, showed just how interesting a survival crafter could be, especially if it focused on PvE and not PvP. Whether it's the idea of the unique mining skills digging deeper into the mines of Moria, fending off dark forces, crafting armor and weapons, building bases, or monitoring the psychological impact of all of those activities, I'm eager to try. I just need to find 7 more players for this 8-player co-op adventure. Return to Moria is due out spring 2023 and will be an Epic exclusive. But we might be getting 3 more games, and they might be coming sooner rather than later. We might be getting them within the next 24 months. Polygon did some digging about these potential new Lord of the Rings games, and depending on how you feel about mobile games, you may or may not be happy or disappointed with what they found. We found out in the middle of last year that EA is making a Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth game from the same developer as the studio who made Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. In the past, EA and Lord of the Rings have kind of been gold, but that was back in 2002. And it's safe to say that 21 years later, sorry for making you feel old, things are different. But Galaxy of Heroes has been well received by fans of that type of game, so if you're looking for a mobile collectible RPG, but you'd rather collect Gollum and Aragorn instead of, like, I don't know, 2 different versions of Luke Skywalker, you're in luck. The 4th game might be more intriguing though. Polygon points to an untitled game in development by Weta Workshop. Anyone familiar with Lord of the Rings movies is probably pretty damn familiar with Weta, the New Zealand digital effects studio that brought Peter Jackson's vision of Tolkien's works to life. They're partnering with none other than Take-Two Interactive, who are known for publishing games like The Outer Worlds and Hades. A press release from Weta said the following: "It's a privilege to create a new game set in Middle-earth, especially one that's so different from what fans played previously. As fans ourselves, we're excited for games to explore Middle-earth in a way they never have before. and introduce new fans to the magic of Lord of the Rings. So I'm guessing we aren't getting an RTS, a new LEGO game, or an MMO. With the timing of these games, hopefully we'll get some news soon. I mean, with the big three leaving E3, that leaves kind of a vacuum for news, and with how much Embracer Group has bought up and has planned for the next couple of years, maybe we could get some really interesting announcements at E3. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for anyway, because I need content to report on. But what about the 5th game? Well, kind of know nothing. We kind of know really nothing about the 5th game. Information for this 5th game really is just kind of nowhere to be found. It's all under wraps, and that's despite getting a ton of other information from this document. We got information on what backlog games are really doing well for Embracer Group, such as Neverwinter and Star Trek Online, 2 MMOs that I honestly did not expect to see there. We got to see all kinds of other information on different games that might be coming out, like Payday 3, Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, the Tomb Raider game that is going to be tying into the Amazon game. And the fact that the Embracer Group plans to publish 224 games in the next couple years, with 31 of them all being AAA games. AAA games being games that required at least or around 100 developers at their peak development cycle, or that they think will be selling at least 2 million copies. Here's hoping that one of those games is going to be the Knights of the Old Republic remake, because I still have not played that game, and that's like this big glaring hole in my RPGs that I have never played. The main takeaway I have from all of this, though, is that we're getting new games for Lord of the Rings, which is exciting. And that's not to mention all the different talk of tabletop games, board games that are coming out. There was a ton of information, but not anything about this 5th and final Lord of the Rings game. But that's not all, and Embracer Group owns a ton of things now. We still need to see what they will do with it, though. They still have to prove themselves, but we might be getting that answer sooner rather than later. Also, who wants to join me and return to Moria? My name is Redbeard Flynn, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.